Think about how much your daily life has changed in just the past 20 years. If you're old enough to remember a time before smartphones, it probably feels like another lifetime. That's not just nostalgia. It's evidence that the world has genuinely shifted at a speed most people in history never experienced. We've gone from local libraries to AI in our pockets, from waiting days for letters to seeing breaking news the second it happens. The pace of change is real, and it's messing with how we think and feel. What if the biggest stress we're all feeling isn't about any one big crisis, but the constant accumulation of small, ongoing changes, each like a tiny thread being snipped from a fragile support system? Imagine a massive ball held up by hundreds of little strings. Snip 1, nothing happens. Snip 20, still fine. But eventually, one cut, maybe the 117th, will bring the whole thing crashing down. Not because that one was special, but because of everything that came before it. The feeling that we're constantly on the edge isn't irrational. It's the result of real, compounding instability. In the past, daily life was hard, but the world around people changed slowly. Now, for many of us, everyday life feels stable. Commutes, jobs, routines. But the global picture feels like it's shifting under our feet. Technology, climate, politics, economics, all seem unpredictable. We feel the tension of rapid change, even when our day-to-day lives look normal. The more progress we make toward longer lives, better health, more access to information, the more our expectations rise. We don't just want life to be good. We want it to match a future we imagined years ago. But now that the future feels foggy, we get anxious. When the future looked clearer, we were hopeful. Now it's like we're squinting ahead and seeing only uncertainty. But maybe that's okay. The truth is, we've always been bad at predicting the future. Think about the world you imagined as a kid versus what actually happened. Now think about this. Even though we're not great at seeing ahead, we're really good at building, at adapting, at fixing things. That's what's kept us moving forward. So instead of trying to control or predict everything, maybe the goal is just to keep adding threads, making good choices, even small ones, talking to someone instead of scrolling, creating something, choosing curiosity over cynicism. It's not about ignoring what's wrong. It's about not giving up on what could still go right. You might not know where things are going, and that's fine. Nobody really does. But what you do now, how you respond, how you live, that's how the future gets made. Not all at once, but thread by thread. Another insight worth considering is how information overload contributes to this sense of instability. We're not just living in a fast-changing world. We're being constantly notified about it. 10, 20, 30 times a day, we're reminded of war, disaster, outrage, and uncertainty. It's not that these things didn't happen before. It's that now we carry them in our pockets and see them before we've even had breakfast. This can distort our sense of proportion. A distant crisis feels just as urgent as something happening next door. A single negative headline can feel like proof the whole world is crumbling, especially when seen over and over again. Psychologists call this the availability heuristic. We think what we see the most often is what's most likely or most important. And right now, what we see most is fear and chaos. The very fact that we're aware of these issues is a kind of progress. A few generations ago, most people wouldn't have known or cared about a humanitarian crisis across the globe. Now we do, not because things are worse, but because our awareness is broader. That awareness can be overwhelming, yes, but it also opens the door to more empathy, more global cooperation, more action. Another important shift is how control has moved from human decisions to algorithmic ones. Our feeds are shaped by machines trained to maximize attention, not understanding. That makes us feel like things are spiraling, because, in a way, they are. But it's not because humans are more chaotic. It's because we've offloaded more of our choices to systems that don't think like we do. Understanding that lets us take some power back by choosing when to step away, when to re-engage with real people in real life. We're not just living in a weird time. We're living in a revealing one. It's showing us how fragile our assumptions were, how quickly things can change, and how much work it takes to hold things together. But it also shows how resilient and adaptable we are. The world may feel unstable, but the fact that we're noticing, reflecting, and asking, what now? That might be the clearest sign that we're evolving. There's another layer to this conversation, the mismatch between personal progress and collective anxiety. On an individual level, many people are doing better than ever, living longer, more educated, more connected. But on a global level, we feel more uncertain than ever. That's not just irony. It's a psychological contradiction. We can have a great day personally, spend time with loved ones, accomplish something at work, and then open our phones and be flooded with headlines that make us feel like everything is falling apart. This back and forth creates emotional whiplash. We start to feel guilty for feeling okay when the world seems so not okay. We question whether small acts of goodness or improvement even matter. But they do. In fact, small, consistent improvements at the individual level are often the only way real progress happens at the collective level. Societies don't change through one dramatic event. They change slowly, through thousands or millions of people making slightly better decisions over time. You can't solve climate change alone, but you can reduce waste, support better policies, and influence your immediate circle. Multiply that by millions, and that's how large-scale change starts. Most major change in history was unthinkable, until it wasn't. Slavery didn't seem abolishable. Women voting didn't seem possible. Same with civil rights, or marriage equality, or the fall of empires. And yet, all of those things happened. Not smoothly, not without resistance. But they happened because enough people decided the current situation wasn't good enough. So if today feels uncertain, that might actually be a signal that real transformation is possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. It's worth realizing that some of the discomfort we feel isn't a sign that we're doing something wrong. It's a sign that we're paying attention. Confusion, frustration, and even fear can be symptoms of growth. Think of adolescence. It's awkward, painful, uncertain. But it's also necessary. Maybe society is going through something similar. Not childhood, not yet adulthood, somewhere in between. Still figuring things out. The task isn't to have perfect clarity. It's to keep going anyway. To make decisions even when the future is blurry. To act in good faith, not because we're sure it will work, but because it might. And sometimes, it might is enough. Uncertainty doesn't just create fear. It also creates space. Space for new ideas, new systems, new ways of thinking. When things feel solid and predictable, we rarely question them. But in times like this, when nothing seems certain, we begin to ask better questions. We start imagining alternatives. This is happening all around us. People are rethinking work, questioning the 9-to-5 model, experimenting with remote and flexible structures, looking for purpose beyond a paycheck. Education is being reimagined, with more people seeking out practical skills, community-based learning, and mental health support, instead of rigid testing systems. Even our relationship with technology is changing, as more people talk openly about screen time, digital boundaries, and ethical AI. These shifts aren't just reactions to problems, they're signs of creativity under pressure. When the future is unclear, we have a rare opportunity. We get to help shape it. We get to ask, what should stay? What should go? What needs to evolve? Not everyone needs to do something huge to make a difference. Some of the most meaningful progress comes from choosing to care about something and staying with it. Whether that's teaching kids, growing food, building a local business, helping neighbors, writing code, or just being someone who listens and supports others, those are the threads that hold things together. What makes this moment different from other times in history isn't just the speed of change. It's that so many more people now have the tools to participate. You don't need permission to create, to speak up, to build something meaningful. With a phone or a laptop, you can connect, organize, and learn in ways that were impossible just a few decades ago. That doesn't mean everything is okay. It means we have more agency than we often realize. So yes, things feel weird. They are weird. But weird doesn't mean hopeless. It means unsettled, and unsettled things can be shaped. We don't have to pretend everything is fine. We just have to stay open to the idea that it could be better, and that we have a role in making that possible. That's not idealism. That's responsibility, and maybe even opportunity. The future isn't something we discover. It's something we build. Most of the progress that matters doesn't feel like progress when it's happening. We expect big change to feel dramatic, like a moment of clarity or a bold breakthrough. But in reality, it usually feels like doubt, like slow effort, like trying something and not being sure if it worked. That's why so many people assume nothing's improving. Because the most meaningful improvements, like becoming more honest, more responsible, more compassionate, don't show up in headlines. They show up in conversations, in decisions, in how we treat each other when nobody's watching. We measure what we can see, but what really matters is often invisible. You can track GDP, stock markets, and follower counts. But you can't easily measure trust. You can't graph how often someone chooses patience instead of anger, or how many times a person helps without needing credit. And yet, those things, quiet decisions made by regular people, are the foundation of any strong society. We should also remember that resilience doesn't mean pretending things are okay. It means facing reality honestly, without giving up on what's possible. It means recognizing problems, grieving losses, and still choosing to try. That's what makes resilience different from optimism. Optimism is a feeling, resilience is a practice. Today, with all the distractions and chaos, one of the most radical things you can do is pay attention on purpose. Slow down, ask good questions, listen longer, choose what you value, and let that guide your time and energy. Not trends, not outrage, not fear. You don't have to save the world, but you can stop making it worse. You can choose better inputs, better routines, better conversations, and the more people who do that, the less fragile the future becomes. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to participate with whatever tools, knowledge, and courage you have. That's how we've always made it through. Not through certainty, but through participation. If the strings are fragile, the answer isn't to give up. It's to start tying more. It's worth asking, if so much feels out of our control, what's still actually within it? The answer might be simpler than it seems. Your attention, your time, your habits, your values, your relationships. These are small things, yes, but they add up. They form the structure of a life, and collectively, they shape the direction of communities and cultures. This doesn't mean every choice you make carries global weight. It means your life is one of the threads, and if enough of those threads are strong, the system holds. It gets more resilient, and that's not an abstract theory. That's how real social stability is built, from the bottom up. If people consistently show up for one another, invest in what matters, and make space for honesty and disagreement without hatred, we get stronger. If we choose fear, shortcuts, and cynicism, we get weaker. Multiply either one, and the outcome eventually scales. The future won't just happen to us. It will reflect us. Our fears, yes, but also our priorities. Our shortcuts, but also our patience. Our distractions, but also our efforts. The key is realizing that waiting passively is still a choice. It's just one that usually favors whoever shouts loudest or acts fastest, not who thinks best. So maybe the most important thing we can do right now isn't to predict the future, but to deserve a better one. Not by being heroic, but by being consistent, a little more thoughtful, a little less reactive, a little more focused on what matters. The threads are still there. The structure is still holding, and more importantly, you're part of it. That doesn't guarantee anything, but it gives you a place and a say. And maybe, in times like this, having a say and using it well is the most powerful thing you can do. After everything, there's one last insight that's both humbling and empowering. This moment is temporary, but what we choose to do with it can last. The confusion, the fear, the rapid change, they will pass, as all moments do. But the habits we build now, the values we reinforce, the ways we respond to pressure, those set the tone for what comes next. Culture is built this way. Norms, systems, even institutions begin in what people choose to tolerate, reject, or commit to in moments just like this. You don't need to have a master plan. Most of human progress didn't come from master plans. It came from people trying to do the next right thing, over and over again, choosing what's better, even if only slightly, and doing it again tomorrow. That's not exciting. It's not cinematic, but it's what works. You are not alone in feeling overwhelmed, uncertain, or tired. That feeling is more widespread than most people admit, and it's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that you're awake and paying attention. So what do? We start where we are, with what we know, with what we can control. We build good habits. We reject empty outrage. We double down on values we actually respect. We invest in people, not personas. We work on things that matter, even when they don't trend. We look for truth, even when it's slow or inconvenient. And most importantly, we keep going, not because we're sure it will work, but because not trying guarantees it won't. The truth is, the future has never been clear. It's always been made up as we go. That used to be scary, but now maybe it can be freeing. Because if the future is built moment by moment, choice by choice, thread by thread, then you're not just a passenger. You're part of the construction crew. And whether or not the future turns out exactly as we hope, maybe that's enough.